Thanks for having me, y'all. Glad to be here.
Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. My name's Cliff Maloney. I got involved in the political world through Ron Paul back in 2012, so he was kind of my first introduction, and went on to lead Rand Paul's effort when he ran for president, was in charge of all of his youth outreach. And from there, got involved, took over an organization called Young Americans for Liberty, did that from 2016 to 2020. And after 2020, launched an organization called Citizens Alliance. So now I'm out there trying to create what we call a liberty state. So we're trying to go deep in a couple of these states to really create, I don't want to call it a libertarian utopia, but we don't want to do the nibbling at the edges. We want to really go in, revolutionize a state so other states have to say, hey, why aren't we like them?
West Virginia.
We're not in West Virginia.
You should be.
We are in Pennsylvania, North Dakota, Idaho, and New Hampshire. You really think New York City's savable? I mean, that's why I say
because that's where Wall Street is.
But I mean, savable, but like, how long would it take?
Is it worth the fight, right? Like when we're talking about divesting and asking these people, hey, does it make sense to move?
I mean, look, old New York was once New Amsterdam, right? It goes way back.
Right.
And there was a period where it was a great city, and then it fell into disrepair. In the 80s, it's late 70s and the 80s, it was awful. And then you got Donald Trump, real estate revitalization, Mayor Giuliani, things started getting cleaned up. Whether people liked it or not, the policies that were being enacted ultimately resulted in New York becoming very safe, and now it's falling apart again.
You say savable, what do you mean exactly, savable?
I guess what I'm saying is it worth the fight, right? Is it worth it? Is this the pendulum swings back 3 years from now, you know, and the people have had enough, they're fed up, and they're like, you know, we need to fix this? Or does it take 20 years?
Does it become
and if I'm the guy in New York City, right, I'm getting out. Like, I just think, you know, go somewhere, go to a red state, go somewhere you can build something. And I just think that, you know, who wants to wait around for, I mean, they're not coming in our direction. It's still, I mean, look at this stuff, right? They're still going in the opposite direction towards insanity. So it's not even like we're at a pause and it's like, all right, where do we go from here? I mean, there's a new story every day about just the crazy stuff they're doing. So I just don't think it's worth the fight. And I do think, you brought it up earlier, you know, the national, I shouldn't say divorce, but like, you know, are we going to have a kumbaya moment, or does it make sense to get out? I mean, I think eventually you're going to have states that are going to have to push back. And the wildest thing about this, though, is nobody complained, right? All the banks got paid.
Nobody sued.
That, to me, is like the part that I think, once again, we're talking normal folks that see this story and they're like, what is going on here? And I think when Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, says that, he's like, you know, all these interviews, you're right, Tim, he's just, I mean, he's out there and he's just like, there was no lawsuit. Everyone got paid back. Like, so where does this come from? Right? It's like, where do they, and look, if they're going to throw the bookie, they're going to come up with something. But I think most normal folks are like, this is obviously a political hit job. This is going to be I'll spoil alert here for the whole 2024 election, okay? Republicans will spend $5 billion versus the Democrats $5 billion, about $10 billion this cycle. Democrats will say the Republicans have a war on women, right? They want to take us back 50 years, anti-abortion. That'll be the whole message. I mean, wall-to-wall TV coverage. This is the Republicans' message. Now, I agree with it. I think we got to close the border. We got to figure this out. But the more they do this crazy stuff, the more it's just going to play into that, you know, and it's going to create a wedge issue. I mean, it's already there. Turn on Fox all day. That's all they're showing, right? They know that it's the border wall. It's the border wall. Yeah, but here's the best part about the root problem, which is they're struggling to recruit people, right? Why? Well, step one, we villainize masculinity, right? It's like, you know, anybody that's a soldier is considered, you know, a scumbag, or, you know, however you want to say it. They've just pushed away from any masculine effort to promote. And then two, they got rid of them all during COVID, right? They said, oh, you didn't get the jab? See ya. You know, I mean, they literally got rid of some of the best of the best, right? To just completely deplete. I mean, I know
so they could open the door to non-citizens.
Fighter pilots, bomber pilots, some of the best folks that we have. And we said, oh, you're not getting the jab? See ya. You got to go.
But it opens the door for them to go, oh, no, let's bring non-citizens in and create an international military force that is accountable to no nation.
Yep.
The United States effectively has become a null space on the world map. Every country has its borders, has its laws, its jurisdiction, whatever. The U.S., imagine a world map, erase the borders of the United States and put landmass. And there's all these other countries all over the planet, but the United States is just nothing. Anyone can come. There's free money. It's all yours. The next generation be damned, and you can even join the global empire's military force. And you know what? I think they may find themselves in Ukraine. They're now, who was that reporter who was like, asked Biden, do the Republicans have Navalny's blood on their hands? Like, just the most psychotic question. Don't be surprised if, as this escalates, they say we're in a recruitment shortfall. We need to send people to deploy to stop Putin, who's going to invade Poland or whatever.
You know, another option could be maybe we don't have troops in 120 countries. I mean, that's a part that we were joking about earlier, but it's like, you know, the real conversation of what is our role in the world, right? And foreign policy is, unfortunately, this uniparty complete agreement in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's, you know, sacrilegious to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't have all these wars going on. And that's the one thing I always give Trump credit for, right? Like the no new wars thing, I think it's a much bigger deal than people think. I mean, hell, Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize and started, what, 7 wars? I mean, it was crazy. They're laughing at us.
It was the not George Bush.
Right.
Peace Prize.
The post George Bush world. But I just think that, you know, you have this situation where it's nobody wants to have that conversation. What is the role of the U.S. government? This effort, Bring Our Troops Home, you guys familiar with that group, Defend the Guard? They're running these state bills called Defend the Guard. And I love it because I'm always trying to find what is the state angle to push back. And when you have this kind of crazy uniparty push, and I'm with you, that they're trying to get to this point where we're weakening, and it's kind of these globalists, I feel like, pushing it, you need a couple states to pass this. And all it says is our governor cannot deploy our guardsmen unless there's an actual declaration of war. Now, some people say, oh, it's semantics, the whole declaration, we're never going to do that again. But what it does is if you look at the numbers, what is it, 60, 70% of the people that deploy to these wars, they're guardsmen. Mm-hmm. They're not active duty. And so I think you got to find things like that to battle back with, because I agree with Tim. I think it's going so quick that if you think you're going to fix it, you know, by getting the right guy in the White House, you got so much more to deal with layers below that. Well, I think it probably has to get worse here. I mean, we don't have a Javier Milei leading the country, right? It had to get so bad that they were able to bring somebody in and say, hey, we need a different direction. You've got the Democrats who are going to continue to spend their money on all the domestic spending, the welfare, illegal immigrants, anything they can do to virtue signal. And you've got the right, who's going to just continue to fund the military-industrial complex. And, of course, we know who pays for it all, the Fed, right? And I don't think you fix the Fed. I don't. I worked for Ron Paul when he passed Audit the Fed, H.R. 459. I'm the biggest believer in ending the Federal Reserve and replacing it with absolutely nothing. But you have to do the spending. The spending is the only way you get it under control. And I don't know when it gets bad enough that people feel it through the inflation, they feel it through the cost of goods and services. But to me, there's that uniparty holy alliance. And until we can expose that with local pushback, local alternatives to all of what they're doing, I don't think you fix it. But you've got to figure out a way to tackle the uniparty's obsession with both domestic welfare and military spending that has really no oversight. The part that kills me is their religion is defeating Donald Trump and keeping power, right? And so this is why the 70%ers don't work. Because if that 30% is going to help Donald Trump, or let's say hurt Joe Biden, to them, that is the cardinal sin, right? That is, you are going against, look at everything we've built. Look at everything that our code says we have to do. You're now not with us. So get in line and sit down and shut up. And I just think that I mean, it's refreshing. I mean, I hate that I have to like compliment Jon Stewart, but you do. Like, we have to compliment these people because everybody else is just in lockstep. Dylan, let me talk directly to Dylan because you're going to see this clip. Dylan, call Anthony Sabatini. Okay, Sabatini's an America First patriot. He's the attorney in Florida that sued during all the COVID stuff. He's running for Congress. Great guy. He will do a pro bono. I want you to get a hold of this guy, Anthony Sabatini. He's one of the best out there. But he saw this. I was like, I saw it because Sabatini tweeted it and was like, I want to represent this guy. I don't think they've connected yet. But
we can make. I think when I say I think this conversation, this clip will make that happen.
But you know what? You know what else is your attorneys, right? If you have attorneys in some of these battles, they get blown up, right? We think the attorneys come in, it's all legalese, right? I've been through some of these battles. Like when it becomes politicized in the courtroom, you better have attorneys that understand that you cannot apologize because that's their whole job, right? These attorneys are like, how do we minimize this? This is why the guy that did it before took a plea like an idiot. It's like, no, they're obviously trying to make an example of you. So if you don't have attorneys that are ready to go to war, if you don't have people who are ready to like really dig in and realize this is political, you're working with the wrong team. I've been in tons of these battles, like locally or people coming after me or different organizations I'm with. If you don't have attorneys that are looking for the offensive way to move forward, they're just going to make an example of you.
Yeah.
You know, it's why we don't apologize to these lefties that try to cancel people. Because the second you give them an inch, you're not getting anything.
Yeah, they're saying you admit it, that proves it.
That's it.
Yep.
You got to dig in. And those attorneys are out there. But I'm telling you, as the landscape changes, whether it's criminal, whether it's civil, whatever it is, you have to find attorneys that understand the activists. If they don't understand the activist side, you're in trouble.
Where's Ron DeSantis? He could right now just be like, get this, no, rubber stamp, done, gone.
Like a pardon?
Pardon, clemency, done, whatever. Before there's anything, he could just literally say, nope, it's over. We're done with it.
He should.
He should. And the other guy too. The other guy was a bit more egregious. The other video, he's like actually dragging and skidding along. This kid turns left and skids as he's going left. That's it.
It should. I mean, the judge should throw it out with prejudice, right?
Yeah.
It should be tossed out with prejudice. Just because of the fact that they're overcharging. If they had come with reasonable charges, misdemeanor or something like that, you got to clean it up, fine. But like a felony to ruin the kid's life, and he's a kid. That's another thing. It's not like you're gonna ruin this kid's. He's like what, 19? 19. And so like, let's go ahead and destroy this kid's whole friggin' life over blasphemy.
I think what Ron DeSantis does here will determine his true colors. Was he actually trying to do good and help people, or was it all just please vote for me for the next run of my career? And now that he's no longer going to be president, now that he's termed out for governor, is he going to stand up and say, I'm going to do the best I can with the time I have left, or is he going to be like, I'm done, I don't care?
He'll do the best.
Will he?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, this has been going on for some time. Why did I have to give $10,000 to a legal defense fund when Ron DeSantis could just rubber stamp his clemency?
Well, as they say, nothing moves unless it's pushed. And I will put DeSantis in this category. He is a politician. I do like him. But I think it's probably going to take a lot more exposure. It's probably going to have to become more real. But yeah, I mean, I wish he would have came out yesterday, right? Yesterday was the time to come out. But I think, unfortunately, he'll probably need a lot more pressure before he says, oh, this is politically worth it for me to make a statement and do something. I graduated high school 2009, and I feel pretty lucky that I feel like I got pieces of it when I went to college. I went to school to be a math teacher, so you wouldn't think it would be, too many of the humanities. But I feel like I got a piece of it, but I think I probably got out like 2013, 2014, right before. Like I had to do the diversity walk, right?
What was that?
So I worked for the housing department, University of Pittsburgh, and what they would do is we would come in, we were resident assistants, and we would have to do these walks for training where, if you're a white man, step to the 5-yard line. Like you're on the goal line, right? This is 2013. I mean, this is not.
That's wild.
It's 2013. It's like the first time I'm like, and you're like, man, what are we doing here, right?
Yeah.
If you're a white man, step to the 5-yard line. If you have 2 parents at home, step another 5 yards, right? And they would go through all the privilege that you'd have, and then at the end they'd say, okay, now look around, and this is the leg up you had in the world, right? And it's like so much of this stuff, it's like, well, hold on a second. The 2 down from me is this black girl who's on like the 5-yard line, but she, her parents both make $1 million a year. I come from the suburbs of Philadelphia, blue collar. My dad's a felon. Like, how does this work out?
Yeah.
But I think I just, like you're asking him, when did it turn? Right. I think college, like circa 2014, 2015, is when it started to get, overtly aware that everybody had to be in kind of this doctrine. I've never seen a product that the quality of the college degree, like the piece of paper is just plummeting and the price is skyrocketing. Like there's no market indicators anywhere. But that loan situation, I feel like people never give it the weight that they should. The current situation, I mean, if any of you guys work with young people that are, my nephew's applying now for this, FAFSA, the free application for student aid or whatever that everybody fills out. It is insane, not just how the incentives don't match the market, but how reverse it is. Yeah. You want your parents to have a lower credit score. That's how insane it is. The Parent Plus loan, which is what all the schools push these kids to do, if your parents don't qualify, you don't get the loan from the school. The feds back it up.
Wow.
So the incentive is that you want your parents to have a credit score that's in the tubes, and then you get the loan at a lesser rate. It's guaranteed by the government, and the incentive's completely backwards. I think that people will look back on I think this breaks in the next 10 years. I think it has to. I don't know how it happens. I think it goes 10 more years and people finally, wise up. But I think people will look back on this 10, 20, maybe 30-year period as like the stupidest financial decisions that were ever made by the 18 to 25-year-old crowd. And why do they do it? Look at I went to public school,
because their parents told them to. His society told them to.
Everything tells them to, right? The literal reports that schools put out for their government funding is about college preparedness, right? How many of your students went to a higher ed institution? That's the number. So when you link all the funding to that, when all of society, the pressure, all the norms, when you're a 16, 17-year-old kid, by the way, I don't think it's like, they're prowling on 17-year-olds with no, people make their own decisions. You're 18 years old, make your own damn decisions.
Yep.
But I do think it all adds up to this idea that you really, it is the worst decision I ever made. I went $75,000 in debt. You're exactly right. I left with a piece of paper. Sure, I got a degree to teach math in the state of Pennsylvania. Great. The things I could have done over those 4 years to build skills, to start a company, to invest in something. I mean, it's part of that system, and I fell for it. And I'm trying to push my nephew right now to say, hey, don't fall for the same trap. Go get your damn welding degree. Pick up a trade. You guys, Joel Salatin's ever been on here?
I love him, and no.
Food Freedom.
Great guy. I love his work.
Let's have him on.
He brought my dad. My dad does landscaping. He brought my dad to libertarianism. He gave some speech once, like at some Ron Paul event. But he's really, really insightful, great guest, Joel Salatin. You guys, Joel Salatin's ever been on here?
I love him, and no.
Food Freedom.
Great guy. I love his work.
Let's have him on.
He brought my dad. My dad does landscaping. He brought my dad to libertarianism. He gave some speech once, like at some Ron Paul event. But he's really, really insightful, great guest, Joel Salatin. It's one of the biggest legislative tricks. When I'm at some of these battles, the Save the Puppies Act.
Yeah, right.
And it's
it bans dogs.
And you're like, how do you? I mean, the biggest thing we run into problems with is voting against budgets. Like Sabatini, that's how they knocked him in Florida. He voted against the budget. And it was Ron DeSantis's budget. And so the establishment Republicans ran all these ads, and he's anti-cop, he's anti-firefighter, he's anti-police, anti-kids. He voted against